Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Pac-Man here, and I am Silver the Hedgehog here, and we are back for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos as always. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of WarioWare Get It Together for the Nintendo Switch. So last time, we've essentially did manage to went through the fantasy stage starring Dribble and Spit, and also we did manage to able to went through the forms of remake stage, and on top of that with the nature stage starring Cat and Anna. Even though much like the forms of how it does it for 9-volt stage, to be more specifically, Nintendo Classics, we are missing one of those micro games. So because of that, hopefully we'll try to able to come across into that, maybe off screen or something like that. So exponentially speaking of Pac-Man is that we're able to show off the missing micro games during the forms of one of those extras in this game. So because of that though, everything else will become to expect for the sake of the forms of most WarioWare games nowadays. Well, in regards to the forms of doing Let's Plays department, except with Game & Wario, just because, you know, like we already said this before, we are not overly keen on Game & Wario for the Wii U, just because of this drastic gameplay change. So because of that, yeah, today for this video is about the fact that we're going to be continuing things on in story mode, and able to actually go ahead and do Ashley stage first, because obviously, as we said this before, we're able to actually choose whatever stage we want to go into. So because of that, what we're gonna do is that we'll go for Ashley stage first, and after that, we'll try to figure something out once we're able to finish Ashley stage first. So because of that, and the actual micro games stage is going to be based off from this time around for Ashley is all about food. Ooh, this looks interesting. Especially concerning for the fact that obviously no matter what though, we're able to come across into certain micro games that's based on food. So yeah, that'll be interesting. So let's get to it, shall we? And obviously, no matter what though, is about the fact that we might able to actually come across into, easily without doubt, the best playable character in the entire game. So, because of that though, we can pretty much guarantee about the fact that what Ashley's gonna plays out to be. So, it looks like she's gonna be able to practice her spells and what have you. So, yeah, nothing else to say about this, I guess, relatively speaking though. Oh joy, and here I was, finally having some fun. So here we are with the forms of Ashley, and she has a lot of dislikes, specifically cute stuff and expressing emotions and unnecessary chit-chat, and she only likes casting spells, obviously, and of course food, and her pal Red. So because of that though, yeah, that's all she able to explain. Now the reason why we say that Ashley is without doubt is the best playable character in the entire game in my opinion, well, much like the forms of how it does it for Mike, as well as Dribble and Spit, she can able to actually go in multiple directions, and on top of that, unlike the forms of how it does it for Dribble, that he can only shoot right, and for Mike, he can only shoot upwards. For Ashley though, she can able to aim in multiple directions. So because of that, yeah, that's actually pretty awesome. Especially you can able to actually just to go ahead and, well, just shoot whatever you want to able to go for. So because of that though, yeah, that's to be expected when it comes to likely preferring Ashley for the sake of the majority of the micro games, which you see why as soon as we're able to actually get the stage started. So even then though, let's just go ahead and select Cat right here, and we'll go for Mona, and finally Mike. So almost every single girls except Mike, because, well, we couldn't gone through like, you know, the majority of the girls, as you can tell. donuts. You keep on watching The Simpsons, haven't you, Pac-Man? Sorry, I can't help it for myself, Silver, because every time whenever I see donuts on screen, it just makes me wonder about the fact that I might be curious able to try those donuts out. Well, generally speaking, I was about the fact that we could able to... Oh jeez, that was close. Because obviously we don't able to destroy the candy because that would, you know, disappoint that particular child. So, anyway, so here we go in the forms of the Ashley stage, and as we said this before, it's all food-based. So because of that though, it's gonna be filled to the brim with a lot of candy, and on top of that, ice cream, which we accidentally failed on. Well, and then again no, because again, certain characters do have certain advantages and some disadvantages. So, anyway, so let's blend the actual orange to orange juice right here, and also we can able to actually use the ketchup to cover the actual dinner up, and that's so delicious. Even especially noticeable because every time whenever we managed able to, well, let's just say that Sonic is already organized the forms of food shopping as quickly as possible, likely for the sake of time that he's obviously gotta go fast and stuff like that, or the fastest thing alive. Obviously, he decided able to not only fetch some fruit, but also certain vegetables, and especially noticeable for other miscellaneous food. So because of that, oh, I did not know there's actually a red banana right here. Or is it brown? I can't really tell for that particular contrast, but either way though, that's besides the point. So anyways, let's lit up those candles to celebrate the birthday cake, and we're able to go ahead and remove that particular object in that particular basket, and also we can able to just take a seat and have a, well, bon appetit and stuff like that. So... anyway, so we have to memorize for this point, and it's just on to the right, so... it's pretty easy though, even though sometimes we only, you know what I'm saying. Alright, so here we go, on to the boss micro game in Ashley's stage. Now, for the most part, it's actually too easy, especially concerning for the fact that we're obviously going to be using Ashley, but... later on though, it gets a little bit difficult as we've progressed through the forms of story mode. So because of that, all you have to really do in this boss micro game right here is that we need to fill up the grape juice into one of those containers. And then once you're done with all that, well, you're basically done here. However though, you need to keep an eye on with the forms of that particular gauge meter, as you can tell, on the right, because obviously when it fills all the way up to that estimation mark, obviously you will fail the micro game. And also you need to rush this, because obviously if your time limit runs out in one of those containers, you also failed. So because of that though, for the most part though, it's actually super duper easy, especially considering we're going to be using Ashley, the best playable character in the entire game in my eyes, but either way though, pure and simple. And the actual grape juice lineup will be all set. So, and it looks like all of those donuts have been eaten, apart from 2. So, yeah, it's a pretty interesting stage, all things considered. Especially that, my goodness, I'm just feeling incredibly hungry whenever I see the actual food on screen. Especially that, let us know in the comments down below for the question of the day. What is your favorite type of food you're able to eat? Well, as far as I'm aware, me and Silver obviously do enjoy fruit and vegetables. Easily my favorite fruit will have to be red grapes, as well as the banana, which that'll make Donkey Kong a little bit more jealous. And on top of all that stuff though, when it comes to vegetables, we obviously do enjoy beetroot, cucumber, most notably, as well as spring onions, and you name the rest. So, that's the only types of food we can probably think about. Oh, and same applies with carrots as well. So, anyways, let's get back into the forms of the Ashley stage, in some cases the food variety, and this time we'll go for different playable characters, which is Dribble, Dr. Crygor, 18 Volt, and Young Cricket. So that'll be all set. So, anyways, a few things we want to explain for this point today is, potentially speaking now, is that today's date, of course, is the 14th of January today, in some cases in 2024 today. And it looks like we are getting pretty close to the point that we've almost at the halfway point, in terms of January already. And, oh jeez, that was close. And no matter what though, one thing we surprisingly forgot to comment on back in June forms within the past few days or so, is that apparently though, we're about to be getting the first ever Xbox Developer Direct is going to be shown up until at some point until on next Thursday, to be more specifically, the 18th of January in this year. So because of that, that's going to be roughly the exactly same day as what the Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is going to be releasing on multiple platforms, and on top of that, we've only just got about I would say 4 more days left actually, not only when that event is about to happen, but also with the phones that particular game is going to be releasing on that time as well. And another thing too is that we've only just got about 5 more days to go until not only The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered on the PlayStation 5 will be releasing, but also another collection, or to be more specifically, another code recollection is about to be releasing on the phones of the Nintendo Switch. So, yeah, that'll be the actual first ever major Nintendo Switch title will be releasing, despite the fact that it's basically a remake compilation game, as be expected with most late lifespan era when it comes to the phones of some other things worth noting for. Whilst, unlike the phones of how it does it on some aspects, when it comes to the forms of not only the Nintendo Wii, but also with Nintendo DS as well, that sometimes they do manage able to bring some original titles from time to time, but most of them are pretty small, like for instance with Mario Party 9, that was considerably the final Mario game to be released on a Nintendo Wii, and as far as Nintendo DS is concerned, Mario vs. Donkey Kong Mini Land Mayhem is considerably the last Mario game to be released on a Nintendo DS. And as far as I'm aware, that for Mario Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, plus Bowser Jr.'s Journey, is considered to be the final Mario game to be released on the Nintendo 3DS. And as far as I'm aware, when it comes to the Wii U, obviously Paper Mario Color Splash is considered the final Mario game to be released on the Wii U, because despite the fact that the Wii U is actually a pretty flop system. So because of that, well, in regards to the forms of the actual sales alike, so well, despite the fact though, is about the fact that it's still managed able to keep on updating certain Wii U game sales as far as I'm aware. Now, for what I've heard about the fact that it's all about speculation at the moment, but it seems to be more specifically, they might able to actually bring back the actual familiar thing. For those of you able to actually already know about this, ever since in the Wii era, 3DS era, as well as the Wii U era, there was actually the forms of one of those reproductioning, well, not so much reproductioning, it's more accurately like a reissue version of certain gaming releases, which are known as Nintendo Selects variety. I believe that once the actual Switch lifespan is almost going to be finished during that time, maybe they'll try to able to bring back the Nintendo Selects branding or something like that. Well, it's kind of hard to say honestly, but hopefully we're able to find out more details about that until when the time comes. So, dang it, we were too late. Oh well, no big deal, because as far as I'm aware, from what I've heard anyway, is that certain Nintendo Switch games have already run out of print recently. So there are quite a few games has been run out of print recently, like for instance with well, I haven't exactly got the list so far, but I suppose we should probably let Ray the Flying Squirrel be able to mention more about it during that time. So because of that, yeah, if you break the candy, obviously you will fail the micro game, so I just want to classify that. So, but aside from all that stuff, that was about the fact that, well, as far as I'm aware, the final Mario game to be released on Nintendo GameCube, as far as I'm aware, well, for the North American version and the Japanese version, is to be more specifically, Super Mario Strikers, whilst unlike the European countries, it was Mario Party 7. So because of that, as well as the Australian version as well. So that's as far as I was expecting this for this point, and we still have no idea what is the final game to be released for Mario series for the Nintendo Switch, because as far as I'm aware, you know, Nintendo Switch is still doing really well, especially considering for the fact that, well, it's obviously doing a massive success compared to the forms of how it does it for the Wii U, so, which we already know about that, so that's to be expected at this point, so. But, yeah, for the most part, oh yeah, let's talk about the forms of that particular topic that we technically already mentioned about, ever since in Journey Forms Spin yesterday. That's what appears to be involved around, you know, with that particular collection thing that we've already mentioned about. Oh yeah, something relates to Felix the Cat, alongside with the forms of, Rocket, Adventures or something like that. well, I suppose we should probably mention more about it later once we're able to get into the next stage. Well, after we're done with the forms of that particular second run of the forms of Ashley's stage first, so just in case we can able to hopefully try to able to actually get the you know, every single micro games of this particular stage has to offer. So but anyways, here we go, going back into the forms of this boss micro game again, and kind of thinking about it, this particular boss micro game is actually called Great Juice. So yeah, that's the only thing I was able to mention about that. So but anyways, I suppose there's also another thing I want to mention about this as well. There was actually Buddy Forms of the Japanese exclusive thing that just somehow recently became 30 years old just recently, as far as I'm aware. That's what appears to be Buddy Forms of Blue SWAT. And basically though, yeah, that particular thing decides able to become 30 years old recently. So yeah, congrats to that. So as a result, no matter what though, is about the fact that it looks like no matter what though, what I've noticed is that apparently though, a what if version of Star Wars is reportedly in the works at Disney or something like that, which I'm a little bit more skeptical about this. Well, especially concerning for the fact that unfortunately though, we seem to able to actually have some bit of struggles to catch up for the sake of the watching something related to Marvel stuff recently. Well, that's just mainly because at this point in time, after the events of what I've heard about the fact that the Marvels is actually doing pretty bad, when it comes to the forms of the box office, as far as I'm aware, likely concerning to be box office bombed. So, no matter what though, we might be still able to be curious to check it out, until when that comes out on Disney+. So, relatively speaking, that's as far as we can able to actually consider this the fact. So, anyways, let's eat up the actual sweet corn right here. Well, obviously, no matter what though, it looks like we're actually doing not too shabby for the most part when it comes to the forms of this particular food stage as a result. So, anyways, so let's feed the actual child a food. And it looks like we're about able to get rid of some of these, oh, I did not notice that word exists. And as it turns out, it's one of those fruits, as far as I'm aware. Anyways, let's knock out all the, we'll knock down every single apples. Oh, dang it, we're off by one apple left. But anyways, let's blend all of these, raspberries or strawberries or something. But either way. Oh, so close, we can able to actually get the last micro game or something like that, but hopefully we're able to come across into that eventually, so assuming, of course, if we do not mess up any of those micro games at first glance. So anyways, let's see if we can able to get the last... Oh, isn't that supposed to be a sheriff thingy from the likes of... Well, actually, kind of thinking about it, though, I think we have technically got something, I guess, because I didn't seem to pay attention to that at all, mainly because we just got distracted by the forms of, you know, a lot of news has been happening. So because of that, yeah, it seems to be more specifically, though, that particular sheriff, as we saw from that particular micro game, as we did somehow failed, well, as it turns out, it's about the fact that he did technically make his return, since in that particular boss micro game, in Catanano stage, in WarioWare Gold, so, specifically in a touch league, so, you know, with the forms of the bottom screen and stuff like that, so... Anyway, so, yep, it looks like we've actually got every single micro games in the food catalog. So, yeah, I sort of didn't pay attention because I was trying to focus, and on top of that, I didn't actually hear that particular mission complete notification on. So, anyway, so that was it for the food catalog for Ashley. So, yeah, that's actually an interesting experience. Now let's move on to, Culture, starring Orbulon. So... As a result, no matter what though, I think Orbulon, whenever we get a chance to play as him, is also really good. So as a result, we're able to actually see some culture stuff, to be more specifically something related to the real world and all that stuff. So yeah, let's investigate. And of course, just like the forms of how it does it for Catanano stage, we are forced able to actually just to select, you know what I'm saying, 4 characters. So, whilst eventually though, Silver, we might able to actually just to classify for notice that we've almost going to be able to be players every single characters up to this point. So, oh geez, it looks like we're getting sucked up by the forms of this tractor beam, thanks to the forms of Orbulon. So, oops, the bad is mine. So here we go with the forms of Orbulon. So as far as I'm aware, much like the forms of how it does it on, not only for the sake of Mike, but also with the forms of, Dr. Krygor, or generally speaking though with, Ashley, obviously Orbulon can able to move in multiple directions, obviously, although he can't able to actually activate the beam by simply able to hold down the A button, and basically you can able to, suck up certain things, and even move objects, and all that stuff. So, yeah, pretty cool character to use, just like the forms of how it does it for Ashley, as well as Wario, and Mike, and you name the rest. So, and, aside from all that stuff though, there's also technically another thing I want to mention. There are so many rumors out there, in regards to the forms of mentioning about the forms of Nintendo Switch 2, but as a result, no matter what though, despite Nintendo does not confirm that yet, especially concerning for the fact that they're still working on the process of able to actually maybe potentially trying to announce something later down the road, but not in this month in particular though, just because like we said before, we're about to be getting the Xbox developer direct in this particular month, so I just want to classify that. Jeez, he seemed to have a lot of those items for culture related. I'm guessing he once able to keep the actual culture stuff for souvenirs, but either way though, for the sake of collection or something, well, I've got nothing more to say. So even then though, I just love the fact that every time whenever we dive right into a micro game, we're actually going to be entering in the actual TV or televisions, like specifically CRT TVs or retro TVs, and I think something tells me once we get to the forms of the boss micro game, we can able to actually get into, you know, the HD high quality TV or something like that, or a big TV, so that must have been something. So anyways, let's get into the forms of that particular topic, as we said this since yesterday, that obviously, like we said before, multiple collections has been recently been revealed thanks to the forms of the limited run games, and we are expecting to see not only Felix the Cat, but also Rocket Knight is going to get its re-releases on not only on Nintendo Switch, but also on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. Like we've already mentioned about this since and during the forms have been yesterday, but I thought we'll mention about that again briefly. But no matter what though, in terms of content they obviously going to be brings us into, like for instance, they obviously going to be mentioning the Standard Edition, as well as the Classic Edition, and on top of that, there's also going to be the, I want to say the Classic Collection. I think that's as far as we can able to say about it. I mean, there's only like, fewer versions for the sake of the folds of some editions, or something relates to that, so that must have been something. So either way though, and I get the feeling we messed it up, so whoops. But that's okay though, because obviously we still got 3 lives to work with, so in some cases though, let's just continue. So, but I'm still very appreciative about the fact that at the very least, when it comes to the forms of WarioWare getting together, that at the very least we actually got ourselves a traditional WarioWare game as opposed to a port to, you know what I'm saying about the fact that with Game & Wario that I'm not overly keen of, because again, it plays nothing like the actual WarioWare game for me, because as far as I'm aware, that for what I've first seen it on the gameplay footage of Game & Wario is that the mini-games are very similar in structure, or perhaps even maybe I'll just keep on ranting about it. So, aside from all that stuff, that I just did not seem able to care about Game & Wario as much. But anyways, here is the evolves of the boss micro game in terms of culture stage, and this what appears to be kind of interesting is that we're going to be interacting with the drawbridge, and as a result we have to able to just let it pass, yes, as what it says here. So we need to let certain boats to pass, as well as certain vehicles like cars, taxis, you name it, to let it through. So because otherwise, if you accidentally mess this up, then you have to try again, as expected at this point. So, and this particular boss micro game is actually called Drawbridge Dilemma. So, oh, and also we have to let those buses come through. So, it looks like we're going to be able to be experiencing the London Bridge, apparently. So, because of that, well, aka the Tower of Bridge or something like that. So, in some cases though, I just have nothing else to say when it comes to the forms of, like, culture related, but still. Oh yeah, every once in a while though, we need to sort out with this annoying bird, by the way. So just in case, no matter what though, once you deal with that bird, then you can obviously able to actually continue where you left off. But thankfully in level 1's case, it's actually not too shabby. Whilst it gets a little bit too chaotic for the sake of not only for level 2, but also with level 3 variants for what I've heard anyway. So, and in fact, kind of thinking about it though, this particular boss micro game, it feels a little bit similar to the forms of how it does in one of those boss micro games you find, not only for the sake of the forms of WarioWare Twisted, but also with WarioWare Gold as well, that basically though we have to able to bring out a bit of a bridge that we're able to let someone else pass through. So, and there we go, that pretty much takes care of the forms of culture. So, yeah, we haven't got that long now until we basically finish up everything for the entire story mode. Or does it, though? Well, then again, we're probably not going to mention about that right now anyway, just because we're still in the process of able to actually go through a few more stages to come, so... But either way, so in terms of what contents they obviously brings us into, for the sake of the forms of those two collections, as we've mentioned this earlier, and that's what it appears to be, in regards to the forms of Felix the Cat collection, for the standard edition, for the sake of the forms of the Nintendo Switch, PS4, as well as PS5, they obviously do contain a physical copy of Felix the Cat bundle featuring the 1992 NES title and the 1993 Game Boy title of the same name. And as far as I'm aware, compared to the Classic Edition, the content-wise they're able to actually bring is pretty much the same, except with some additional stuff. Like, for instance, they're still able to actually contain physical copy of the Felix the Cat bundle featuring, you know, those two games combined. And on top of that, they also mention about the fact that the physical CD soundtrack featuring the original music from the Felix the Cat titles is going to be featured on there. And on top of that, the reversible poster. And finally, packaging inspired by the original Felix the Cat NES release box. So, pretty interesting content-wise. And as far as the forms of the Rocket Knight Adventures Re-Sparked collection, obviously the contents were able to be featured on there actually does have a lot more content than the forms of how it does it for Felix the Cat collection. So, as far as I'm aware, it's also going to be releasing on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and as well as Nintendo Switch, of course. But it's even weird is that there's no Xbox releases for some reason, so I digress. So in terms of contents they're able to actually bring us into, the Standard Edition is going to contain the physical copy of Rocket Knight Adventures Re-Sparked, which includes 3 Rocket Knight titles in one collection. And on top of that, they also contain the reversible cover and the mini comic. So that's actually interesting. And finally, in terms of the forms of the Classic Edition, they obviously brings us into... Oh, there's also even more to it than that. As far as I'm aware, for the Classic Edition, they obviously contain, at least one of the sets anyway, obviously it will still contain a physical copy of Rocket Knight Adventures Re-Sparked, which includes, you know, 3 of those games into one collection. And also they're going to be bringing us into a physical CD soundtrack featuring original music from Rocket Knight titles. And also, much like Felix the Cat collection, they obviously will bring reversible poster. And on top of that, retro-inspired clamshell packaging with reversible cover art. And finally, the steelbook. So, yeah, that's that. And finally, there's also the second alternative, which pretty much features the same thing as the forms of the first rendition, except they obviously do bring 5 more new additions. Like, for instance, there's also a full-sized comic, as well as a design document collection, and on top of that, mini cartridge display case, and certificate of adversary or something like that. And finally, with the forms of Sparkster statuette or something like that. So, yeah, and that's quite a lot of content for the sake of the forms of Rocky Knight Adventures Re-Spark collection. So, yeah, pretty cool for what content they're able to actually bring us into. But then again, though, as far as I'm aware, that unfortunately for those particular collections, as far as I'm aware, they do have limited time offerings. So because of that, well, when it comes to limited releases. So, obviously, as far as I'm aware, is that for Felix the Cat collection, like we said this before, which does manage to contain 2 games into one package, right? Like, one of them contains an NES game and a Game Boy game of the same name. And as far as the Rocket Knight collection does manage to contain, they contain Rocket Knight Adventures for the Sega Mega Drive / Sega Genesis, and on top of that, Sparkster Rocket Knight Adventures 2, also for the Mega Drive and / Sega Genesis or something. I apologize for my commentary, it's a little bit slippy at some points because my tongue can sometimes feel a bit too twisted at some point. So, yeah, I apologize for this point, folks. And finally, most notably, is that they're obviously going to be comes in with Sparkster for the Super Nintendo version. So, yeah, kind of interesting release as far as I'm aware. And as far as whenever I do manage to double check on the actual release dates by that point, I believe Felix the Cat will begin at some point on next month, to be more specifically February the 9th, and it's going to end off until 10th of March. So, and as far as I'm aware, when it comes to the forms of Rocket Knight Adventures Re-Sparked, it will eventually start to be on the shelves on 19th of January, so that's going to be up until specifically 5 days for now. And on top of that, it will end at some point on the 3rd of March. So it's like a week apart between these 2 collections, as far as I can try to remember that. So at least it's interesting that those collections now became a thing, so that's always something. So anyways, there's also technically another thing I want to mention, is that I did not even know that those 2 Wii games in particular does have a unique feature that I suppose that we did not even know at first, is that when it comes to like 2 games in particular on the Nintendo Wii, which there are Excite Truck as well as the forms of Endless Ocean, apparently those 2 games do have their own unique feature in regards to the forms of utilizing the SD card, and because of that, they can allow you to actually play your own music throughout the course of the game. So yeah, we did not know that at first, especially concerning for the fact that, well, whenever we first experienced certain Wii games in the past, that we did not know that particular feature exists up until now. So potentially speaking, though, you can able to actually put up your very own favorite music in the background, like every time whenever you experience Excite Truck, as well as the forms of Endless... Oh wow, we don't have to do anything at all, because apparently that ballerina just somehow managed to get into the actual the spotlight instantly. So yeah, that's actually interesting. And of course, we somehow got every single micro games in Culture Stage. So yeah, that's actually super top notch and everything. So, oh dang it, we messed it up. So it's now down to 1 life left. So, oh jeez, we almost gonna mess up right there. But thankfully, we did somehow succeed. Alright, here we go with the boss stage again. So, with 1 life remaining. So, we shall see what happens during that time. Oh geez, we're now going to be able to come across in 2 planes now. So I suppose there's only one thing for it. We need to once again let it pass. So, alright, so there's a car alongside with a taxi, I think it was. Oh geez, we almost gonna mess it up because we was trying to focusing on that bird that we need to get rid of. But yeah, that's as far as we can able to talk about in regards to the forms of what's been happening recently. I mean, overall, not much else I can say. Well, apart from the fact that I'm curious to know what certain announcements they'll bring us into. In regards to the forms of the, the Xbox Developer Direct will be coming up. So, but then again, we'll have to wait and find out. Oh, jeez. Yeah, if you fail like that, then you have to, like, take your life away. So, oh well. But at the very least, though, so far, at the very least, we got every single micro games in the culture stage, at the very least. So yeah, that's always something. So, and with that, that's it for culture. So, yeah, it looks like we haven't got that long now. So, in some cases, though, the next stage we're going to be hop into at some point on next weekend, it appears to be body forms of Jimmy T, and there's going to be more to it than that if we decide able to continue, continue our progressioning for the sake of the forms of the story mode. And still, no matter what though, it just goes really, really dang quick. Yeah, kind of thinking about it though, just because despite we have to, find every single micro games, but still, so far we are missing 2 so far, so then again, we'll have to able to get those off screen. So with that said, we got the endings of this point right here. So join us next weekend for more Let's Play of WarioWare Get It Together. Is that we're going to be hit on to the sports stage starring Jimmy T. So yeah, it's filled to the brim with sports and everything. So we'll see you guys until next weekend. Later, fellas.